Welcome to Happily Ever Aftermath, the podcast that explores the movies that influenced how we view love and romantic relationships. Yes, there will be spoilers. I'm your host, Diana Rojek-Sconard. Every time I wash my hands, I'll think of you. We're talking about Castaway from 2000, and I'm very, very happy to welcome Daniel Van Kirk to the podcast. Hi.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you, and I'm very excited. So, Castaway. I have to give the. I have never seen this movie before, except for the podcast.
Sure.
So when I was asked, "How about this movie?" I was like, "Okay." The trailer gave me "quote unquote" all of the movie, so it's Tom Hanks on an island. I'm very curious. What made you decide Castaway?
I love the movie. I think that it's. I think from a technical standpoint, it's masterful work by Robert Zemeckis,
Agreed.
and it's. I love the story. I love that it has a happy ending. I think that isn't necessarily like a cookie cutter happy ending.
Okay.
I think that the performance by Tom Hanks. I mean, am I the first person to say he does a great job acting? I think it's wonderful. I also think that there's multiple stories happening. The largest of which isn't necessarily the most important, and the largest being obviously that he needs to figure out how to survive and or get off this island.
Right.
And I think that it's. I think the romance of it is really powerful and really well done. I've seen this movie a lot. It's kind of, my family has a cottage in Wisconsin, and there's certain VHSs and DVDs that you kind of put in every single summer at one point or another, and this is heavily in that rotation. So
Right.
I've come to appreciate it more and more the more and more I've watched it. So
That's great. A lot of the times, the more you watch a movie, you have the potential to see the cracks in the story or the cracks in the production. But beautiful setting. I mean, even though it's a unfortunate situation of being trapped on a desert island, possibly dying there, it's beautiful scenery. So
I think they're in
have.
Bali.
Oh, okay. I didn't look up where, but ultimately, it's we get to enjoy it while also struggling with his actual potential death. So it's kind of a awkward situation as I was watching. So do you remember the first time you saw it?
That would have been, I think, when did it came out? In 2002, 2003. Yes. Yeah. So it would. I saw it in the theater, and I think at that point in my life, being pretty young, I saw it as more of just an island survival movie. So I remember being very like, the high points for me were the plane crash and getting fire and then getting off the island. And those are all still amazing points in the movie, but I don't even know if those would be my top three today. So
Wow.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing it in the theater in Chicago, Illinois.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing. So when I watched it, I was actually marveling at how much there is a setup. A lot of the times movies now, it's like, hey, we gotta get this guy on an island and we need to get straight to his struggles. But that's more like an action movie. There's big things happening. But this is about character. This is about struggle. This is not about, and when I say struggle, I don't mean like climbing or jumping or trying to do that. It's, surveying your surroundings. So I have the benefit of listening to Pen Pals and Dumb People Town. So I happen to know you have other shows about survival that you watch.
Yeah, for sure. The show Alone. I love that show. Is
Castaway possibly responsible for that, or were you always interested in just kind of like a lone survival type of situation?
Yeah, I think I grew up a lot in the wilderness, and my family hunts, and I think also at the same time I've always interested in like what like, what could you survive? Like, what could you do? Like, how, like, when we take away our elevators and our pens and our
electronics,
like, how well would you fare? I'm not like I don't say this with any other than some of the other things that sometimes can come along with this statement. I'm not like a doomsday prepper, but I don't fault anybody who's like, I just want to be ready. It's sometimes they go down other rabbit holes that I'm like, I'm not following you to that one. I was with you with the beans. You want to get a whole bunch of beans? Sure. But these conspiracy theories. I don't know. There's something about that. It's like, if everything was taken away, how would you do? Also, and I asked this on a recent episode of Pen Pals. I asked the person if they did any like rock climbing or like those rock climbing gyms. Have you ever done one?
No.
Okay. It's very interesting, and I said this on the show, and so I apologize if anybody has a crossover, but it's very interesting because when you do them at any level, right, whether you walked in right now or a person who competes as like rock climbing walls and stuff like that, there's a point in which you realize this is where you would have fallen off.
Oh, okay.
Even though you're 2.5 feet above the ground, maybe, or 6 inches above the ground, and it's all matted below you, if you had been in that position on the side of a mountain, that's where you would have died. And that is a very, like, it's dramatic, admittedly, but it's also telling. It tells you know something about yourself. And I think a lot of people, we never push ourselves to that point. You know, I either made this up or I heard it, but in a marathon, most people aren't crying or emotional at the end because they finished. They're crying because of mile 11, mile 14, mile 22, mile 24. It's the parts where they like kept going when they wanted to finish many times before, but they just didn't.
Yeah.
And they pushed themselves. And I think that, like, you know, not to get all Wall-E, which is another great romantic movie I almost picked, but not to get all Wall-E, but, you know, we just comfort our life, and we very rarely put ourselves in position to go like, wow, this is literally sink or swim here. So yeah, I have a certain fascination with that. It's very attractive to me to see like what people can do and how they can do it. You know, it's not too much gimmicky though. Like, I respect the actual like obstacle of a show like Naked and Afraid. Okay. But it's not real. That's not super realistic. You could find yourself in a jungle, but I doubt you would have shown up there with no clothes. True. So I appreciate that. It's still amazing. They go 21 days, but I think on a show like Alone, for anyone who doesn't know, people are literally by themselves until there's one person left standing. They start out with about 10. You know, they go anywhere from 60 to 90 days. It's still extremely hard, but if, you know, Naked and Afraid's 21 days because you don't have anything. You have to bring one item, whereas in this you can bring 10, and you're supposed to be able to survive. It's just can you? So.
Okay. Yeah. And also, forgive my cynicism, but it's like it's also being filmed. So to what level is it actual level?
Oh, Naked and Afraid.
Either of those shows.
Oh well, Alone is only filmed with SD cards, GoPros, and cameras. You are your own camera crew.
You are your own. Okay, yeah.
I think when they do that, they when you're selected for the show Alone, I think it's like 2 weeks of training, where they show the people like, here's how you operate a camera. This is how you would set up this angle. If you wanted to go fishing, for example, you first should set up this camera over here so that you can see yourself fishing. And I'm pretty sure they would be remiss if they didn't convey to these people, the more you film yourself, the more you're going to be on the TV show. Right. And they probably incentivize them as well. Like, the more you're on the show, the more we can, because everything's scale to pay, but they probably incentivize them so that they're constantly filming things, right? And not missing anything as well. They might have rules too, where they go like, hey, we just come and pick up the SD cards, and if you haven't shot anything, we're just going to pull you because we can't monitor your health and how you're doing and your cognitive thoughts and things like that. So they go through a very intensive training to shoot it all themselves. There's no other crew. I think there's probably just an SD card drop and someone comes and gets those maybe a half mile from their camp. Who knows? I don't know. But I know that outside of towards the end, they will show up and do random medical checks because they just need to make people aren't in full starvation mode.
Sure.
But there's no assistance given to them and there's no camera crew there.
I like that it's so much more thoughtful and it can actually just kind of stop my cynicism. I mean, then again, knowing someone is out there looking for you, though. I mean, if we're even talking about going back to the movie itself, though, I can see that adjusting a person of just like, well, someone will be out.
Oh, there's a way out.
Yeah, exactly.
There's always a way out.
There's always that version of it as well, because you can't perfectly create. You are trapped on this desert island, and what would you do? And it's like, well, someone's gonna, go ahead.
But at a certain point, like he's not trapped. I mean, I know we want to focus on the romantic aspect of the movie, but when he leaves the island, you can tell that there's some loss there.
Yes,
because that place sustained him. That was his home. He was there for 4 years.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, it's always in the back of your head of like, I'd like to get off of here. But at a certain point, that became his home.
Yeah.
And he's leaving his home. And I wouldn't be surprised if in the character work of Tom Hanks or Robert Zemeckis, that he doesn't go back there someday.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you see it even just in trauma. Like a lot of men who survived Normandy, like kind of feel this need to like go back and revisit that place. Hopefully in a like healing way. But you see that loss of like at a certain point he wasn't even surviving; he was living.
Right. Yeah. And I understand the concept of wanting to revisit from a therapeutic standpoint. And I even thought about it when he was at the celebration and he picked up the crab leg and just kind of threw it right down.
So ridiculous that they were like, I mean, it's such a funny, but also like just how absent-minded people can be about.
Sure.
They thought like, well, we'll get them all the best food, and seafood is some of the best food you can buy.
Yeah, and
it's the last thing he would want.
All I could think was like, well, it's different crab, so that's something.
Sure, fair enough.
Different. No, you're right. You're absolutely right. My impression as, he was leaving, it's all I could think of is at least there he knows he can survive. When he comes out, there's potential.
Yeah, he's once again adrift.
It's just, it's back to that beginning. Like, why would you walk away from something and walk into uncertainty? He could survive, he could be rescued, or he could die. And I wonder about, well, I don't even know what the statistics are. And of course, it's so easy to go into the what if that were me, is he really taking a chance, or is he just really just trying to find a different way to end what he's dealing with right now? So
yeah, I think also it's a character, in terms of like love, who loves things throughout the movie and then has to deal with the loss of those things. So if you look at the opening, like he loves his job and he loves time.
Yes.
And he loves structure of time and reliability, right? And then he loves Helen Hunt's character.
Yes.
And then he loves Wilson, right? And at the end of the movie, he's lost structure, he's lost time, he's lost Helen Hunt, he's lost Wilson, and he's a guy who has to kind of at that point really embrace that, like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know who I can count on. I don't know what time it is, and I'm okay. And so it's really about like a love of himself and like being in the moment. It's a nice nod that he has like another Wilson ball with him when he leaves and those things. But I think he's really come to like, not that any of those loves, except for maybe the job and the time thing, were destructive or negative in any way. But he's just constantly dealing with like the loss of things he relied on.
Right. Relied on. And that's where his meaning was.
Yeah. I mean, he relies on his love of Helen Hunt to like literally get him through that entire process, and then realizing that he loved a person who doesn't exist anymore.
Yes.
And she had to process no longer loving someone who she didn't believe existed anymore.
Mm-hmm. And then we could even talk about, like, do you stop loving them? Do they still love each other? I imagine for him that's a lot easier to answer, but I really felt for her in that whole.
Oh my God! So that was a big deal. I've watched the commentary a few times as well.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And they talk about it. They needed to have an actress who would be in the movie a minimal amount, but needed to be able to carry the weight of the character and this performance,
right,
and go like toe to toe with Tom Hanks, because you can't get like lost in him in the screen. And that scene when he comes back and they hug, and they do the reverse of her. I mean, that's her. That's like worth an Oscar nomination, just on that like emotion alone.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like she grieved. You know, they had a funeral. Like he was gone. And they wanted to originally have the movie be like they had some sort of turmoil. They were kind of like fighting back and forth. Like there was all these incarnations of like what their relationship would be. Mm-hmm. And they just settled on a very simple, like, no, this is a happy couple who, if anything they're lacking, it's time. Time to do the things they want to do, time to get engaged, time to go to the dentist. And they didn't kind of give it any of that like loaded bullshit of like, well, what if they're almost going to break up? Like, no, it doesn't need all that. Just like this is, when they sit down across from each other with their day planners.
Oh yes.
And it shows like, one, it gives you an idea of who they are as a couple, who they are individually, and then how they work out their life. And, that all gets thrown into the ocean, literally.
Yeah, and the beauty of show not tell, and you're
100%.
absolutely right. They didn't do that. In fact, I would imagine myself kind of being irritated if the last words they said to her to each other were a fight, and like, oh, 100%. We'll take care of this when I get back, and that. Right. No, if anything, it's just I'll be right back.
It was a promise. Yeah. It was a promise. I'll be back, and we'll deal with this engagement ring when I get back. Something
happy that they're scary, but a different version of scary for the future, and then just completely obliterated with.
I mean, when he gives her the watch back.
Oh man.
Because it served him.
Yeah.
And it's hers. Mm-hmm. It's her family's, and the line is, no, it's a family heirloom that should stay in your family. And it's it's amazing. Like, but he's processed all that. He's had to. He didn't have a choice.
Sure, and it really speaks to, like, even with all the trauma he's gone through, the fact that he can. I'm not that strong. I mean, I imagine few people are.
Well, I think I think, like, have you ever had times in your life where you kind of went down to zero in terms of like what you owned or where you lived?
It's been a long time, but I think maybe. Actually, I don't know. Actually, I don't think so.
Yeah. So I've had a couple times where everything I owned fit into a car.
Okay.
And then I had times where everything I owned fit into whatever you could bring on a plane.
Okay.
And I think that, like, you can get, I think for him, he was like, well, I used the love that I had for her to get me through this, and she lived in that watch. And I think he keeps the picture, though.
Yes. Yeah. He says it was all, faded and everything, but he kept the picture.
Yeah. And so I think it was about him. It's like when it's all like stripped away, you're like, I lived, like this isn't, it's not about, to have the couple examples that I personally had, or certainly his, like, man, you just end up like being like, this is all just stuff. Mm-hmm. It's all just stuff, It's a watch. It's not going to mean as much to whoever he would give it to if he made it in his family heirloom.
Right.
And just the basis on what it is and was to her when she gave it, it'll mean that hopefully to whoever she gives it to in the future. Mm-hmm. But and when we have time for it, I have many theories on the future of those two characters. But
oh, great. Yeah. The original question is, when did they fall in love? It's what I asked people. And
sure.
Even before we got started, it's, this is a relationship in progress.
Did you like the movie?
I very much like this movie.
Okay, great, yeah.
A lot of it was like
so much of no dialogue.
Well, it made me antsy in different places because it's a 2.5 hours. And it's very, very good. But so I'm in the middle of my sister-in-law is getting married next week. And then my niece is getting married the week after. So I have to go not only to 2 weddings, but one's in Ohio. So it's like, okay,
wow.
I'm in the middle of all this. So right now I'm feeling like time is of the essence where I'm just like, I want to sit here and enjoy this. But I also have like a small fear of flying. So I'm just like, I'm not going to enjoy watching this before I need to get on a plane. But so I had my antsiness and I had all these different things and my mind was racing up to a point. And again, the beginning of the movie, it's not action packed, but you feel what's happening. Yeah, it definitely moves. And then it slows down.
Well, that whole opening with the package and then...
Time. And I'm feeling like I'm right with you, Tom Hanks. If I could get a crew going right now, that would be really helpful. But then when it slowed down, I'm like, I was imagining it as when the weddings are over, and I'm not there yet, but I want to be there, but I don't want to be there. So I'm actually, wonderful movie. And there was a part where I'm just like, I feel like I've been through so much with him, and I can't even imagine that there's even more, but there was. Yeah. And I was very pleased too, because I'm like, if they stopped it right now, I think my heart would break. Just completely. And I think there was a lot that was satisfying about, the what ifs. I mean, it ended more hopeful than I thought it would, which was wonderful. But at the same time, though, I can't help but lament for what was lost, even though he's coping in a way that I never could. Again, I'm way too absorbed in his character.
Well, don't you think he spent the last 4 years having to just flatly accept things as they are?
I mean...
So he's very well versed in tough shit.
Right.
Like you don't get to.
Yes,
and also he's very intelligent. Like there had to be some part of him that thought like, I've been gone 4 years. Like he also had 4 years to say, I'm still in love with this person, but this person has to think I'm dead.
Right.
So it's if he were to show up and be like, what? Like you go, what? You go, are you an idiot? Like I understand your heartbreak, but like. You knew you were gone 4 years. Even on the flight back to the States, you were told they had a funeral for you. Even if you've at least had, even if it wasn't until then, you've had a few hours lead time to wrap your head around the fact that everyone assumed you were dead.
Sure.
And you should have, if you didn't do that years prior, you are wild.
Yeah. And it really speaks to his character because he's just like, she's coming? Like, why would she? Because of everything. Like she's so when I first watched it, I assumed that if I had seen it in 2000, I would have been the cynical person where I'm just like, oh, why is she upset? He had to go through all these problems, as compared to what he dealt with. Why are you so upset? And now that I'm older, I'm just like, oh, that poor person, poor him, poor her, loss. Completely independently of each
I feel
other.
Bad for her new husband.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
What do you say? What do you...
Yeah. And being in a caretaker role of two people, one person actually, where it's just like, what just happened to my wife right now? Like something just completely, that we thought this was our life. Again, he had like a smaller version of it.
Yeah.
The ripple effects.
I don't know. I mean, I would like to think that if my wife's presumed dead husband showed up, and we had a healthy relationship, and she had probably conveyed to me that this was the love of her life. Yeah. And he was tragically taken away. I think after like the shock had worn down, I would probably want to have a real conversation and go, let's forget about my personal investment in this. Like, how do you feel? Yeah. And if you didn't have to help me pay a mortgage or say, well, because we have kids, what would you do? Yeah. And if hopefully that person would go, I think I want to like see the love of my life. I'd go, yeah, that sucks for me. But also the last 4 years sucked for you. So like, this is life. I think the worst case scenario would be acting like not addressing it and just hoping everything stays the same functionally in your marriage, because that's wild. would be wild.
Right. I mean, all I can think of is like she lived with uncertainty for a long time and then eventually had to do it. Now this different uncertainty, if you don't talk about it, I don't know if I could deal with that either. But again, this scenario is just...
I think I would have to accept if she wanted to leave me.
Right. I mean, being trapped in the whole, like, well, let's just not talk about it and continue our marriage. That that would just be horrific in a different way.
Like, would you run a race where you're always in second place?
Oh, I mean, what's the prize for second place?
Not first.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, okay, good point. It also was hard to watch the party where everyone's just like, yeah, you're here, Chuck, yay. Everyone get out. And then it's just like...
Well, have you ever experienced culture shock?
I don't know. Can you give me a small definition to make sure I'm...
I remember when I went to Italy, even for like a couple weeks, and I came back to the States, everything felt a little weird at first.
Oh, wow.
I have friends who go to Burning Man, and they're kind of like re-entry to society. They've been at an In-N-Out on the way back to LA and had to like remember that you have to pay.
Oh, okay.
I went to Mardi Gras once, and even leaving Mardi Gras, I was like, oh yeah, we were like, that was like a different... There were no rules there, and I don't mean that in any sort of nefarious way, but it just was a completely different cultural like mindset.
Yeah.
No one. I say all that to say I think that in those party scenes, and I think this is what Zemeckis and Tom Hanks are trying to convey, is that no one is appreciating the culture shock that he's probably experiencing. Right. I think there's a nod to that on the plane when he has ice. And he's like,
yeah.
Just here's ice.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's such a
so easy
mind fuck to him because of what his last 4 years were like. And I have friends who served in Afghanistan and Iraq, and the culture shock that they come back to when they're like, man, no, but we got it so fucking easy here, you know. Wow. You see it in a movie like The Hurt Locker when he's buying groceries and Jeremy Renner's like, this is the dumbest. What do we just go to a place and pick out food? Like, it's so wild.
Yeah.
So the culture shock that he's experiencing is, it had to just be mind-bending. And they do a great job of showing that no one else is appreciating that at all.
Yeah.
But you don't know what you don't know. You have to give people grace, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I had read an article not too long ago saying that Castaway is a little bit more relevant now after the pandemic, and so that when you had asked, have I ever experienced culture shock, the closest I can even think of is after 2 years of working from home. I went back into the office for 2 days in a row and just getting on the train and going into the office and looking around and feeling something that I hadn't experienced for 2 years. Right. It's not the same, but I bet you it's something that most of us...
I think it's coming from the same vein. It might be a smaller drip, but it's 100%. I mean, Dave Ross, who you should have on this show, but the comedian Dave Ross like tweeted out once, which to him was probably just like a quick joke, but also Dave's a super thoughtful guy, but he wrote, everyone I know has PTSD.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, we all, like, I don't know about you, but I think about this someday. Like if I have kids, I think about them asking me like, what was that like? You know, and I'm going to have scary answers. Thankfully, so many fears that didn't come to fruition, but it was a very scary time for people. The way that I talked to my grandmother about the Depression and World War II and scarlet fever and smallpox and or measles. It's she's lived through a lot of that. But I think that's 100% in the same vein of what you're saying.
Right. And even that comment about PTSD, a lot of the times I was thinking like, it actually takes a tweet for me to realize that I have it. So how many people actually, they have it, they don't realize it, just collectively in society right now.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a therapist by any means. You've heard me say that a lot on Pen Pals. But I would like to think, and I personally feel without any professional training, that seemingly the way Tom Hanks's character is dealing with the loss of like the actual like I'm home and home's not the same anymore, like loss of his romantic love of his life, and also his life in whole. The way he seems to be dealing with it feels like the best, and obviously the best is whatever works for any person individually. And so maybe it just resonates with me, but it feels like the best way to do that. For two reasons. One, don't try to go back into your old life. Don't try to go back to your old job. None of those things are going to be the same.
Right.
But then do something. And so he seems to be exploring, like he seems to be driving without a destination.
Yeah.
And I think that is action without requirement. Like there's nothing required of him, but he is doing something. And I feel like that's probably a very healthy way to reintegrate yourself, because you are going to be in a diner eventually. You are going to be at a gas station. You are going to be in a motel, but you're not in a house or an apartment as close to where you used to live, trying to do the same things and see the same people, because none of those things are the same. So like, just go be, you had to like be on that island, and I'll be on this huge North American island. Right. And take your time, which is, kind of goes all the way back to his whole thing, time.
Original theme.
Yeah.
I read in the trivia that in the beginning it was that he had all of these resources and never enough time, because he was always trying to make things go faster and faster. And then when he's on the island, he has nothing but time. Right. So spitting it back and then having to go back to where it was before, there's no way it can feel the same. And right. So I think that's and
to go back to the romantic angle of the movie as well, you see that, like, do you have a sleep routine personally in your life? Okay, yeah, I think that people always are like, how do you know when you're adult? And I'm like, well, when you appreciate expensive curtains and you have a sleep routine, right? Because when you're like 17, 18, you're like, here, I'll fall asleep here. And it takes as long as it takes. As we get older, we're like, oh, I need this fan and this sleep machine and this temperature and this blanket, this pillow, this podcast.
Sleep mask.
Yeah. And you see that his love for her is part of his sleep routine, even in a hotel. Like he on the floor.
Yes.
With the flashlight.
Yes.
And, now it's a lamp, right? And it's off and on and off and on. But it's his almost like daily devotional to his love for her is kind of how he can go to bed. Right.
Yeah. Just even if on the other side, when he's back, he knows, but even on the other side, he may never see her again, but it's the only tether he has in that point.
Right.
And
right. And it's a thing that people, it kind of gets harped on the most in like weight loss or physical health journeys, but they always say like, what's your why?
What's your why?
Yeah. And that she is his why. And then at the end of the movie, he's faced with, I think, a new why. And I don't know that we know what that is. I think people can make guesses as to what it is, but it has to be something else because she's gone.
Yeah. And even as someone who's gone through a weight loss journey, I've been taught that your why will change and you have to find it again. Otherwise you will drift away from what you're trying to accomplish.
Well, you also kind of have to constantly maintain a focus on reminding yourself about what your why.
Yeah.
Because you can so easily forget it. And that can be anything, whether it's you want to be a writer or you want to be a lawyer or a teacher or you want to lose 20 pounds. Like the more focused and mindful you are of your why, probably the more likely you are to keep doing it.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
And from my own personal experiences, I'm putting it on Chuck's character. It's a lot easier for your why to be someone else. Because in my experience, my why, if I'm doing it for me, that's actually not good enough.
Sure.
I will fight harder for the people that I love than I will for myself. So that's very relatable, even in this life or death situation here.
Yeah.
So there is no love origin with them, but can you tell me a little bit about what you think might have been going on when they reunited?
In the house that night, in the rain?
Yeah. Just he was called to her. He needed to talk to her, and she was even opening up the door and just like, I saw you pull up and come on in, and already.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that had to be tricky from a like an appropriate standpoint, because he saw that she was there, and he saw that she was like really hurting.
Yes.
But I think, if you ask yourself, like, am I ever? I'm alive and I'm back home.
Yeah.
Am I ever going to see her again? And the answer would be yes, you are 100%. So should you wait a month? Should you like drag this out?
Right.
Should you be walking around for 2 weeks with her knowing you're here and you know you're here and she knows you know and you know she knows? Like, so, and she obviously came there with the intention to see him, but it was too hard. So he probably thought, well, I should go there, and I've been dead for 4 years, so what's the difference between noon and 10 p.m.? Like, really, who fucking cares about time right now? And I think that's a big justification for why he went to her house, because also, tomorrow's never guaranteed, and he knows that better than anybody, and so does she. So I think that part of that decision to go there was that. And also, if earlier that day your dead, technically maybe fiance, came back to life after 4 years of being gone, I'm pretty sure you'd be up. Like, you're not going to bed. Yeah. And you probably may be at the window, or or it's such a quiet neighborhood that you can hear any car pull up, certainly at late at night.
Right.
So I think that all of that is justified in his decision to go there. And I think he wanted to know if she would want to leave everything for him. And I think she wanted him to know that she would want to. But then they're both decent, not overly dramatic people. And said, you got to go back in that house.
Right. Yeah. It's so on point, and it's simultaneously feels right and breaks your heart. Well, my heart. I'll speak of my
heart. Which is why it wouldn't be heartbreaking if, he opened the door and she's standing there with a bag. It might feel good, right? You might go, wow, they're back together.
Sweet.
But it's not as, at some level you'd go, man, that's kind of shitty of her to do that to her, Yeah.
Husband, kid.
Yeah. So in real life is heartbreaking, and fantasy is fake. That's why it's fantasy. You know? Yeah. It feels really comforting. Good, but it usually doesn't work out very long.
Exactly. Sadly, but also right on point. Yeah. You alluded to it, but you said you had some thoughts to what happens next.
I would guess that within a year or two, she probably leaves her husband.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know that they end up together. Right? Like Tom Hanks' character Truck may change, and who knows if there's a future for them. But I just think if the person you loved with all your heart was back around and you didn't end for any reason because of personal preference, or lack of emotion or compatibility, it would really complicate your ability to be with somebody else. Yeah. Yeah. Like when someone's dead, people can remarry and go, people get remarried at 70, they get remarried at 80, and they find a new partner. Yeah. And they know that person had a partner for them, and they're not looking to replace that partner. They're looking to be the partner for now and forward. Yes. And with complete deferential respect and love for whoever came before them and helped guide their partner into who they were or who they are. But that the key there is that their loved one who passed away is gone and not coming back. Right. And I think for that person to come back, you can't I don't want to say compete, but I don't know that both things can live in the same space. You know what I mean?
Yeah. In fact, I was thinking about the scenario where it's, you're broken up with, and there are people who still hang on to that person even though the relationship ended. But if it were up to them, they would still be together. This one's, a different version.
But see, the thing is with that scenario is, and I've said this to people, like, I had a friend who, their partner, like, seemingly just completely changed their attitude on who they were and what they wanted, and they didn't want my friend anymore. And they were like, I just don't know if we'll get back together. And I said, well, you kind of can't. I go, you could start dating them again, but the person that you dated is gone. Yeah. They are now a person who you dated and then broke up with you and shocked you and traumatized you, and you will never date that person again because they don't exist. It's like a new page was written. Like, you had a book that had 60 pages and now it has 66. So you can't buy the 60-page book anymore. It doesn't exist. It's a longer book with more information and more experience. So you'll never be able to go back to who that person was before.
Right.
And I think that would be the hurdle for the two of them, is in which ways, have they changed? The difference here, though, is in the scenario with my friend, the person they were dating made that decision, right? To go, I don't want you anymore. And you need to deal with that. And then if they go, well, I think I do want you. Well, you're still always going to be with a person who you're like, is today a day you want me or don't want me? And the difference here is that no one said, I don't want you anymore. Which I think is one of the reasons it lends itself to the possibility of, hey, I still feel this way about you. Like, at my core, I'm the person that you loved, and at your core, you're the person I loved, and we were extremely compatible. But I don't know. Maybe it's, like I said, life is heartbreaking, but it's got to be full of, like, love and heart in order to break in the first place. So maybe I'm erring too much on that side, but I think that they would find each other again. But I don't think it'd be easy.
Oh, nothing about their future would be easy if they came together or not.
Right.
No, I agree with that.
Because also he's almost idolized her, to this entity of what he lost and what he left in the parking lot that day. And she can't live up to that. No. She can't live up to... Well, I shouldn't say she can't live up to it. She's crystallized,
Yes.
In what he left and who's in that photo. And so there would be a time of, like, here's who I've been and what I've done the last 4 years, and here's how I survived on an island for the last 4 years.
And any flaws she may have had would just kind of fall into the background of, it's irrelevant right now.
Right.
Because...
But eventually you're just standing in a kitchen asking someone, did you pay that bill?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So it's like you'd have to get back to that. That's a long way from I'm not dead.
Right. In addition to, like, feeling his way back into a different life that is familiar but is different. In addition to these things that are important but not compared to
also,
what he did.
Not to be my own devil's advocate, but, like, he was day planners time.
Yeah.
And he may be a completely different person on the other side of this, that she's like, like, he could just come back and be, I'm a free spirit. I'm not tied down to anywhere. I want to be able to go and do anything. And she's like, I live in Memphis. Yeah. So I'm not,
this is my life.
I got 2 kids. I'm not, so who knows?
Yeah. A lot of the times when I ask this question on the podcast, I've been stuck in a blatant happily ever after scenario where it feels right. You're right, though. There's no happy ending for everyone involved, because there's always these circumstances. And my first thoughts were, maybe she doesn't get back together with him because that time has passed and she wants to be there for her kid and she wants to stay with her husband. And I thought, the instinct is, let's have something that kind of closes a loop. So what if she goes back and gets that PhD that she never completed, just for some version of closure? But the more I hear about what you're saying about the way people change, I'm someone who I don't like an unchecked to-do list. I like it all done. Sure. Yeah. So that's where I'm trying to push these characters into that. But I think that you're right. My life is in Memphis. This is where I am, and this is what I accept. And I'm in my future. I'm leaving her with her husband, with her children, and for him, the movie again has this like, oh hey, he has opportunities, but there's also this very pretty, talented woman over here. What about that? And I'm choosing to ignore what the movie wants to nudge towards my
I don't
brain
think.
to complete.
There's no part of me that thinks that he goes towards that winged woman.
Sure. Yeah. The romantic in me wants to say that, just to close that loop. But
I think the only, like, you checking off, he was like, I delivered that package back to you. And you seemed really nice. But, like, I mean, he's a guy who I don't think he's interested in tying himself to anything right now.
Not now.
Like, no.
Not now.
No. I think he just wants to keep 2 feet on solid ground and see where they take him without like worry.
Yep. And the realist in me is just like, how does he go back to his life? Oh, this happened with FedEx and everything like that. He is now financially set for life.
Right. Yeah. I'm sure millions of dollars
be it insurance or publicity.
Yeah. I mean, you figure just alone what they would have paid out to the crew that died, like what their family would have been paid out.
Right.
And he died and didn't die and went through 4 years of hell because the job he was working didn't get him home safely.
Exactly. And my heart breaks for that pilot that he discovered. And
I know.
I hurt as much as I hurt with Wilson, but I imagine the pilot doesn't get as much credit as Wilson. So
that's one part of that movie that drives me nuts. There were so many useful things on that pilot when he buried him. Yeah. Like, I think his belt was still on.
Oh, really? Oh.
Maybe I'm wrong.
I was focusing on the fact that he kept his shoes, so that was something.
Maybe it was his tie. There was just things where I was like, hey, take that.
Yeah.
But I know that they did bring in a lot of consultants to, like, how could you use VHS tapes and ice skates and all these things. And I wouldn't argue if I ever had the opportunity to be told by Tom Hanks or Robert Zemeckis. They were like, we felt like the audience may think he's being too brutal if he scavengers everything on this guy. And in a real life scenario, you would take everything you have. If you I mean, not to be super morbid, in a real life scenario, you would use a lot of that guy's bones for tools.
Interesting.
I don't think I could have, and certainly at that point in the movie, he's not in a place where he's like insane survivor man. Sure. Sure. And I'm not saying I, even sitting here, am either. But there's a world in which you go, well, this could be very useful. All of this could be very useful. But that, you need those scenes where he's like trying to put on the shoes and trying to get fire and burying this guy, and then all of a sudden you do that jump cut to the water and the fish, and you're like, oh fuck. Which, side note, for anybody who doesn't know, and forgive me if I didn't say this, or if I already said it, in between the I just took my teeth out wavy transition into water and then him standing on the rock, they needed him to lose all that weight and grow that hair and that beard and all those things, so they went and shot, the entire crew picked up Robert Zemeckis, and they went and shot What Lies Beneath with Michelle Pfeiffer and Harrison Ford, and then came back and finished the rest of Castaway. Yeah. Once again, excellent use of time and efficiency. Yeah. It's kind of rough, but at the same time, it's very hopeful. So I think that's why this movie didn't completely, rip my heart out. And it's a survivor movie with a through line of a love story. Yeah, and I also thought of like, how many times is Tom Hanks, Joe versus the volcano? Okay, sure. I should probably like not watch Sully after this, because he's been through enough. Captain Phillips. Oh, that's right. Yeah. Oh, it's okay. And then isn't there another one where he's like shooting Nazi submarines.
I don't know about that.
That came out in 2020 or 2021.
Oh, that's not Bridge of Spies, is it?
No.
Oh, okay. But Ryan did point out Apollo 13, and I'm like, okay, well, that one wins.
Yeah. Disaster. Disaster of the worst kind.
It is an incredible body of work. Thank you, Tom Hanks. Mm-hmm. Daniel, thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, thanks for having me. I hope people watch this movie and or they watch it before now. And I mean, Helen Hunt's performance is as strong as Tom Hanks's, in my opinion, with such less time to develop that character and show that emotion. She's phenomenal in it.
Yeah. And she didn't have the benefit of just being able to have all that time of the movie. And she was always with somebody else. So she always had to act off somebody. She couldn't do any pieces on her own. So, yeah. So this will be coming out in later October. I understand you'll be, is it the Together Again tour?
Yeah, I'm doing October 29th. I'll be doing the Grolix comedy show in Denver, so I'll be doing a headlining set there. That's at the Bug Theater. And then the weekend before Thanksgiving, I want to say somewhere around the 18th, I will be at the Come and Take It Comedy Festival in Houston, Texas, doing a live Pen Pals and a headlining set as well, and a whole bunch of other just fun stuff. It's a great festival. People should come to it. All that stuff's at danielvankirk.com.
Mm-hmm. And you can always keep up by listening to Pen Pals, Dumb People Town.
Yeah, they're great.
And you can be cool like me and become a patron of Daniel
I would
Van
love
Kirk.
it. Yeah. We can do Scratching the Surface. You sent in the very first scratchers that we ever did.
I was disappointed and relieved that we didn't win anything, because then there's not an argument of any kind.
There won't be any argument.
No.
If you were to say to me, I need that money, I go, you can have it.
And if you told me you needed that money.
See? So we'd have a nice off.
Okay.
We'd have an old-fashioned nice argument.
Who's going to get to the bill first?
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. That's at patreon.com/DanielVanKirk.
Absolutely. Thank you so much again.
Awesome. Thank you.
And until next time, may your aftermath be happy.
Agreed.